Yeah, builds have always been a headache. I really liked Michael's metaphor about unicorns. No one ever considered to build a unicorn, right? And it's donkey business, and that's probably why I have such an affinity to donkeys. I have donkey t-shirts, I did a donkey trekking tour a couple of years ago. So now I understand what donkey and builds makes sense now. So the problems I want to talk about today are some of the major pain points we're coming across with all our clients. When I look at their build infrastructure, builds are hard to use efficiently, dependency management is a big problem, and performance, right? And the problems are getting worse. The software stacks are getting more and more heterogeneous. Java, iOS, JavaScript, Android, you get it. The growing code bases are a big problem. If you don't do anything, the feedback cycle is getting longer and longer. Mobile and SaaS is pushing people to much more frequent releases, and microservices have their own challenges when it comes to continuous delivery and continuous integration. So, okay, here. So originally I wanted to give a high-level talk, but then people told me, hey, those are really serious people attending. They don't mind seeing code snippets, so now what you see is mostly code snippets. Here you can see a rich model in action, a rich Gradle model in action to describe a build. And the model, it's very different when compared to when you look at an Enter or Maven build. This is a model that allows the developer to present the problem in the form of the solution. So the developer is not forced to think like a build system, but the build system thinks like a developer, right? And having a rich model in a build system makes it also queryable. It makes it much easier to extend and integrate with other tools. It is key to a maintainable, highly automated build infrastructure. At the end of the day, this is translated into a low-level build language, build execution graph automatically, right? So those few lines you've seen before is turned into more than 300 tasks. So if you're using an AND or make or rake build, you would have to write thousands of lines of code to get a similar behavior. So another key challenge is the reality that almost all enterprise software stacks are not based just on one language, right? So the key software platforms must be first-class citizens by the build system with their domain deeply modeled to have a deeply integrated and highly automated build and development infrastructure. And this is an example how you can deeply model with Gradle also not just Android, but also C++ builds. It is super important, as I just described, that unnecessary complexity is hidden for developers. That is one of the big challenges with many build infrastructures. Developers are too much exposed to complexity of the build. But on the other hand, you don't want to pay the price of rigidity. So deeply embracing extendability and customizability is a must for an efficient enterprise build platform. And the reality for all larger enterprise software stacks is that to achieve a high degree of automation, you must add a significant amount of customization to deeply integrate with the organization. Ask Netflix, ask LinkedIn, right? So, and this is just an example of the powerful language, how you can do your own custom stuff. Wonderful topic, dependency management. It's a key capability for an efficient enterprise build process, although it depends to some degree on how your organization is structured. I think one can say that good dependency management is key for modeling the release process. It is key for reliable and reproducible build, and it is key for continuous integration. So considering this, it is interesting to see how much still can be done in this area. Right? So dependency graphs for larger software stacks are huge and deep and hard to comprehend. Right? So, and they're better not fragile, but they often are. So one reason is that you cannot express properly substitution or splitting of certain dependencies. For example, that Google Collections and Guava are the same thing, and one is replaced by the other. So if this is not properly expressed, you have fragility in the class path, right? You might change the version of a dependency you are using, which drags in transitively new dependencies, and if the identity of Guava and Google Collection is not understood, you now have them both in the class path, and you depend on the accidental class path order whether things will be working. A time bomb waiting to explode, possibly in production, right? An issue LinkedIn was facing for a long time, right? So it's ridiculous that we still have those problems, right? And when we're talking about why the donkeys are still where they are, it's because this even solve such a thing was such a hard effort, right? And now things are progressing, fortunately, and we try to do our job to make it easier. So super interesting problem domain. I could talk about that for a long time. Unfortunately, no code on this slide. One thing that is super hard at the moment is to produce and consume libraries when you have multiple target environments. So they are not currently part of the metadata when doing dependency resolution. So I don't know if someone from TypeSafe is supposed to be here. Yeah, so you know the problem from the Scala world, right? You face it in a simpler form. It's just the Scala version because of binary backwards compatibility. In the native world, this is a much more challenging problem, right? And the consequences of not having a solution for this is that you often make implicit assumptions of the environment that are not spec'd in a build script. So thus leading to non-reproducible builds. It also means a lower degree of automation affecting the productivity of your developers, because as they have to manually tweak to now do something for this environment, for that environment. So those things should be first-class citizens in the dependency management process, and we're working hard on a solution that allows you to make that a first-class concept in your build so that it's all version controlled, reproducible, and super easy to work with, including domain-specific fallback rules and so on. Doing continuous integration via binaries across the release and staging process is also often causing a lot of pain. So you want to be able to say, give me the latest dependency depending on the stage where I am. So if I'm working on my library that is in milestone status, I don't want to get any latest dependency, but the latest dependency that also has milestone status. If I'm building from the testing branch, I might want to get published dependencies that also have to be built from the testing branch, right? So, and there's a lot of pain in the organizations with modeling that. And we worked a lot with Netflix on some of this stuff. And I think that for you, this is now a pretty solid solution. Anyhow, you're never satisfied, I know. Which is good, we're the same. So, and above it, you see a toolkit where you can easily model that for your organization with Gradle. So everything is a dependency. Libraries are just one form of a dependency. For a highly integrated build, it is key to embrace platforms and microservices also as dependencies and enable the powerful dependency management language we have developed to be applied to those. Another work in progress item for this year. Performance is a key pain point for larger software stacks. So those are three things that are key in our opinion to solve that. Having a distributed cache that shares all build output between developers, having a seamless way to distribute integration tests, which is especially for many Java enterprise organizations often the biggest bottleneck, and finally being able to distribute a single build efficiently across machines. So those are for us key ingredients for super fast feedback cycles. We are working on all of those topics, and we have a simple metric to consider this a success. So we want to get basically a full clean LinkedIn build under a minute, right? Then we can both jointly retire. Yeah. So other topics I love to talk about, I don't have the time today, build infrastructure management, CI that models your organization, that is not the reality of your organization. There is this one team that produces shitty software, but the project lead is the son-in-law of the CEO. Do you want to deeply do continuous integration with them? I don't, right? And the cultural aspects Chris pointed out are super interesting. The friction between developer and release management teams, I've seen a lot of those in action. And build analytics, monitor everything, super important topic, and tooling, IDE integration with Gradle and things like that. Also with, for example, we have nice integration now with CodeEnvy. Yeah, so I'm happy to talk about all of that on the desk over there. Thanks a lot.